Hi, welcome to another video. This is Mr. Chow from EnglishTuition.org. So in today's video, we are going to talk about the upcoming O-Levels English Oral Examination for the year 2023. Okay, let's get started with doing a quick recap of the format as well as the syllabus, right, for the oral examination. It's going to take place from 25th July onwards. And in other words, it's going to be taking place in a few weeks' time. Okay, so you actually have very little time to prepare for it. So I hope the tips in this video will help to get you through. Okay, so continue to watch the video. Now, most students will take the new syllabus with the exception of a few batches of students, right? For example, those who are taking as a private candidate and they are repeat O-level students, they will revert back to the old syllabus and will continue to take the old syllabus, as well as some of the Sec 5 students, they will still be taking the old syllabus. And the old syllabus involves a reading passage, okay? But I think 80-90% of the students will be involved with the new syllabus, which does not include the reading passage, right? So there's no more reading passages for the new syllabus. So what do they have in place? Okay, the entire exercise is still a total of 30 marks, but instead of the reading passage, which is worth 10 marks, now students will have to work on a planned response, which is worth 15 marks, meaning half of the weightage of the oral exercise. And then, in addition, the remaining 15 marks will be allocated to the spoken interaction, where they will continue to have a conversation with the examiner. All right, so that part is unchanged, right? So there will still be a spoken interaction. The examiner will ask you a couple of questions, maybe some secondary prompts, and the students will have to try to think on their feet, right, and come out with a reasonably intelligent response. Okay, so that is the new syllabus. So keeping that in mind, with the new syllabus, what is the best approach, right, when we go into the English oral examination? So here are some tips for you. Let's start with the planned response. And first of all, let's reiterate that this is not a reading exercise. Okay, so the planned response, in fact, take into consideration the students' planning skills. So during the preparation time, which is still 10 minutes, students are allowed to watch the video, right? And then they are given writing materials where they are allowed to write down their thoughts and their response, right? So then during the examination time, the students are supposed to present their written thoughts to the examiner. All right. So what students should not do is to attempt to write an entire essay and then during the presentation read word for word. All right. So first of all, during our practices, with some of my students, right, if you're going to write complete sentences, right, write the entire essay, complete paragraphs even, okay, it's a very lengthy paragraph, it's going to be very time consuming and you may run out of time without finishing your script. Okay, then what happens, right? Some students may end up panicking, okay, because you have not done and you run out of time. Okay, this is poor time management as well. All right, and then you're reading word for word. Reading word for word means that your eyes have to be glued to the piece of paper. Okay, so then you are not making eye contact with the examiner, and this is not ideal as well. Okay, so instead, what students should do is to just write down in point form what you're going to say, right? What are the important points? And if you have some extra time, don't just stop at 1 or 2 points, right? Because some students just try to do the minimum. They always have this bad habit. Just do the minimum, write the least number of words, and then just try to get through. So what happens is, if your script is too brief, right, and you're lacking in content, during the presentation itself, there you are going to find yourself having a lot of hesitation because it's so empty, right? You can't, instead of being a planned response, now you are trying to think on your feet, right? Because you can't rely on the script anymore. It has so few points. All right. And another disadvantage of having two viewpoints is that you may finish too early, right? And your delivery is too short, and the examiner is waiting to see if you have anything to add, and then you're going to have this awkward silence, right? Because you have nothing to fall back on. So during your preparation time, don't be lazy, all right? Try to have a buffer, write additional points if you have the time, okay? So that, if you're given the time and you're expected to say a bit more, you have more content, you have more things to say, all right? So focus on your points and jot down important keywords that you would like to use. So for my students, they have spent many weeks, okay, on building up their language. So I'm not too concerned, right? So if they have been doing their language work, they have been expanding their vocabulary. All I need to do is to remind them that, be mindful of your word choice when you're writing the script, right? So your word selection actually plays a big part in whether you do well for the oral exercise or not, right? So if you're going to use all the simple words, like talking like a primary school student, like a primary 3 kid, then of course you're not going to score very high for your oral exercise, okay? But the planned response will give you this opportunity to write down the words that you want to use on the script, right? So that when you go out there and present to the examiner, you just need to form a sentence and read off your script, and then your job is done, okay? Try this out on your own and you will see that it makes a huge difference, right? When you pay attention to your choice of words, okay? So of course, I mentioned this, try maintaining eye contact when making the presentation, right? As if you're talking to someone and not reading off a script. Now, this is easier said than done, right? Don't just think that, oh, it's easy. I can just look at the examiner and glance at my script, okay? But when you're actually doing it, okay, I know this from experience when I'm teaching my students, you actually need practice, okay? So we still have a few weeks before you take the oral examination. So take the time to practice. Find somebody, your friend, your parents, or even your tutor, right? And do the practice, right? As you're reading off your script, try to maintain eye contact, all right? And if you're doing this with your tutor, okay, maybe you can get some feedback, right? Are you doing it right? How is your delivery? What about the word choice? What about the pace of the way you speak, right? The speed of your speaking, right? Is it well paced for the entire delivery, and is there enough content, right? Your tutor or your teacher should be able to give you some detailed feedback in order to help you improve. So again, it's all down to practice, all right? Now, the next section, okay, is the spoken interaction, right? And again, here are some tips. So of course, being able to think on your feet certainly helps, because now it's no longer planned response and you do not know what question you're going to get, right? And sometimes students even get caught off guard, right? They thought the topic is about sports and instead they get thrown a curveball, okay? And the question is about technology, for example, right? Because there's a handphone in the video, okay? So then you have to rely on your wits and try to practice thinking on your feet, right? And I've said this in numerous videos before, right? Whenever I talk to students, right, they just give me monosyllabus responses by saying, okay, right? Okay, law, good law, that kind of thing. So they form very bad habits and they do not practice thinking on their feet, right? You do have to try, right, to give a point and then start to elaborate, right? So that's the right habit that you want to form in order to engage in a proper conversation with the examiner, okay? So of course, you cannot prepare for every question, right? But there are some common topics that you can actually use to prepare for the oral examination, but that is beyond the scope of this video, because if I go through all the common topics, right, it actually takes us several months, right, to actually go through some of these topics, right? So I hope that whether in school or in your tuition class, right, that you are given opportunity to practice the topics and then you can rely on those notes. If not, you can always go back and just take a look at your test series, right, and that will give you some clues, okay, as to what are some common topics that you may encounter, right? And for sure, being familiar with the topic helps you to come up with points quicker. Now, for my teaching, we don't just focus on the topics, within each topic, we also focus on the common question types. And we usually during practice, we just throw out the question types. Even if the students cannot give a proper response, at least they're exposed to these topics and these types of questions, right? So then it's less likely that they will be caught off guard during the oral examination itself. And the feedback that I've gotten from some of my students is doing that will certainly help you, right? So again, if you are not in any form of tuition class, maybe your school teacher can help you out, and go back to your 10 series and use the questions from there. Okay. And I think for the new syllabus, the publication for the 10 series have changed, right? I think some of the questions are not even being released right now. So for those who own older copies, okay, of the 10 series, you can still rely on those questions, right? And it's the full set of questions with the black and white photograph, right? Okay, if you have it, you know what I mean. Okay. Also, it's not just about coming up with the points, right? So if you are going to go like, I have so many points, right? 10 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. List all the points, I'm done. Okay, so that's not how you want to approach the conversation, right? Because this is a conversation and it is not a comprehension, right? In a lot of cases, there's no right or wrong answers, right? The examiner wants to see your ability to be able to elaborate more on the points that you have just given, right? So it's also about how you present those points, right? So don't just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I'm done. Okay, zero elaboration. All right, that's not the approach. Okay, the examiner also wants to know that, are you able to organize your thoughts as you speak, right? So that's a skill in itself. Not everybody can kind of multitask and think as you speak, right? And a lot of times, that's why for scripted response, from past practices, 9 out of 10 of my students don't even have a problem with the scripted response because they're allowed to think beforehand. So if you take away the script, some of the students start to struggle, right? And then they tell me, Mr. Shah, I don't know what to say, and I don't have a script. You need to give me time to think. But no, when you're having a conversation, you're not given the time to think. You're not given 5 minutes, 10 minutes to think, right? The entire exam time is 10 minutes. The entire questions or the asking of the questions, including the oral delivery, everything, okay, is 10 minutes exam time, right? 10 minutes prep time, 10 minutes exam time, okay? So you don't have a lot of time, right? Maybe just a few short seconds, and you should start to give your first point. Now, the moment you give your first point, right, do your best to elaborate. Okay, what approach you want to use is up to you. Okay, different people like to use different approaches. Okay, if you're able to think on your feet, right, giving a spontaneous response, that's the best, right? So go back and think about why you give the point, right? Give some reasons, right? Think about your own interest, right? Think about your own preference, and then from there you should have some kind of opinion that you can offer. All right, so that's a great way to start. Okay, then once you're done, okay, please signal to the examiner that, okay, I'm done with this point, let's move on to the next one. All right, and if you're done the entire delivery, just conclude with at least a single line, right? The examiner also wants to know, right, can you speak fluently, right? Or do you continue to struggle with hesitation? Now, a lot of times this again depends on the topic and the questions that are being asked, right? Because again, if you're familiar with the topic, then the points are coming fast and furious, right? So you don't have a problem coming up with the content, and as a result, you are able to speak more fluently, right? But from experience again, okay, whenever I throw out a difficult question, all right, maybe like an argumentative question, students start to struggle, and when you can clearly see that they're struggling because they're hesitating a lot, meaning there's a lot of pauses, right? A lot of stops, a lot of pauses, and they know they're not doing well for the oral exercise. So how do we get over all those things, right? Let me leave you with a final piece of advice for those of you going into the O-Levels English oral examination. Repeated practice helps develop oral skills and ensure that you can perform even under stressful conditions, right? Even if you're super nervous, if you're super stressed, right? Because it's the O levels, it's a national exam, right? But because of your past practice, your skills and your ability to speak will not desert you just like that, okay? But for students who don't use English, who don't speak constantly, right, on a daily basis, who don't practice and continue to insist, right, giving one word response, okay law, good law, you know, those students will tend to struggle a lot more. So you find that you belong to, you know, those this category of students that I've just described. Well, the good news is there's still time, there's still a few weeks. I think even a few weeks of daily practice can make a difference to your O levels oral results. All right, so don't give up, continue to practice. Start right now. The moment you watch this video, start today, not tomorrow, not the day after, not 1 week before the exam. That's procrastination, right? You start now, okay? And I'll leave you with a thought, right, before I end the video, okay? At the end of the day, right, whether you do well for the oral examination or not, right, there's still life beyond the examination. I always tell my students that, right? And you should not treat the oral skill as something to just help you to score for the oral examination. Being able to speak will help you out tremendously in all kinds of daily situations, right? You may be attending an interview for your course, so that need oral skills, right? So as you grow older, right, you're in school, okay, you may in tertiary education, okay, you may be involved in a group project, all right, which requires you to do some presentation, and that calls your oral skills into question as well. And as you graduate, right, you may be attending job interviews, right? And after your job interviews, you may be in customer service or sales where you're required to speak with people, and even if you're not, you're still required to work with colleagues, and that requires you to communicate and speak well, okay, with your colleagues. So don't treat this as a one-time, one-off thing that, you know, let's be done with the national exam and, you know, I'm over it. That should not be the attitude, that should not be the approach, right? The approach is, I want to be good at communication, right? I want to be good at spoken communication. And that's why, because of all these reasons that, you know, because of this video Mr. Chow had mentioned, right, all these benefits, all these life situations that you will face inevitably, okay, as you grow older, okay, because of those reasons, then it makes a lot of sense, okay, for you to practice speaking English daily. Okay, with that said, I don't want to drag on this video any longer. I wish you the best of luck for your English O levels examination. And we've come to the end of the video, right? And again, right, if you are interested in you know, learning English for real, okay, you're serious about learning English, and you want to sign up for lessons, okay, I'm not talking about those taking O levels. Taking O levels, you're graduating, right? Maybe if you're watching this, right, and you have an upcoming O levels, N levels in the next 1-2 years, and you're interested to sign up for lessons, just visit my website englishtuition.org for more details. You have all the fees, all the timetable, schedule, everything is there. All right, and of course, don't forget the O levels online course is now also available, and again, details on my website. And with that said, thank you for watching, and if you like the video, don't forget to leave a like and a subscribe. Thanks again, right? I'll see you soon. Bye.